guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell by the title, today's video is going to be a full face using different techniques by beauty gurus. Some of these are things that I just didn't really have anyone to give credit to. I've seen a lot of different people do it, and then some of them are things that I've gotten from specific beauty gurus and kind of credited them. So yeah, this is like a full face of using different beauty guru techniques. A lot of them I haven't really tried. I got this video idea from Mariah Leonard actually. She did a video exactly like this and I don't think I've seen anyone else do it. So I was just kind of inspired by that video and I thought it was really cool and unique, and I thought I would kind of recreate it or do my own version of it. So yeah, just so you know, that's kind of where I got this idea from, and I did use actually quite a few of Mariah's techniques in this video. I really love her videos. I feel like she's a very good teacher and she's very informational with the things that she talks about, and so I really feel like her techniques have helped me out in the past, and I wanted to try some of them out today that I haven't tried before. So before we get started, don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't already, like this video if you enjoy it, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Alright, so to prime, what I'm going to do is kind of like a target priming method. I've seen a lot of beauty gurus do this. I can't really credit it to one specific person, but it's just kind of applying different primers to different parts of the face based on what that part of your face needs. So just right here where I have larger pores, I'm going to apply this Maybelline Baby Skin Instant Pore Eraser. This is kind of like a pore filling type of primer. I'm just going to take a very small amount of that and just put it in between my fingers and just apply it right here where I have larger pores and press it into the skin. Put it here in my smile lines a little bit. And then for the rest of my face, I'm just going to use the Hourglass Mineral Veil Primer. This one is just like a small sample size. I feel like this smooths out your skin really well. It just gives a nice smooth base, perfect to apply foundation over. Next, what I'm going to do is a tip from Mariah Leonard, and that is applying setting spray before you apply your makeup, and then you apply it afterwards as well. And it's kind of like this sandwich technique is what she calls it. It sounds really cool. I've never tried it before. She said a long-lasting setting spray is good, so I'm going to be trying that today with the Skindinavia, the Makeup Finishing Spray in Bridal. I'm just going to let that dry for a minute. Alright, so for foundation, I'm going to be using the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation, and I am going to be applying this with a brush. It's not so much like a crazy different technique, but I myself don't apply foundation with a brush. I just prefer a sponge. I feel like it looks much less cakey and kind of smooths the foundation out really well. But I have seen a lot of other YouTubers applying their foundation with a brush, but I don't really do it, so I thought I would try something different. I'm going to be using this flat top kind of like kabuki brush by e.l.f. and I'm just going to apply the foundation straight to my skin using the little paddle applicator. I'm used to applying my foundation with a beauty blender, so that actually sucks up a lot of the product. So we're going to see how it applies with a brush. Hopefully it's not too full coverage. I'm not quite sure why, but I do feel like a brush blends the foundation out quicker. Definitely not as much coverage as I expected, but I really like the finish this gives. I feel like it looks really good. Alright, so first I'm going to apply some concealer just down the center of my face a bit. And I'm actually going to just blend that out with a sponge. And then for the under eyes, I'm actually going to do something that Mariah did in her video as well. And I guess this is a tip from Jackie Aina, where she applies the concealer underneath her eyes and then she lets it set. So like when it's kind of not shiny anymore and it's been sitting there for a few minutes, then she blends it out, and I guess that just kind of helps to keep the coverage. I never do a big triangle shape under the eye. I just feel like it's way too much concealer. I just apply it right where my dark circles are because that is really my problem area, is my dark circles. I'm just going to let that set for a few minutes and then I'll be back to blend it out when I feel like it's set. Alright, so that's been setting for a few minutes. I feel like it took a little bit longer to dry than I expected, and I also feel like it oxidized just a little bit, which is odd. Normally you don't notice that because your concealer is already blended into your skin, but I do feel like it did a little bit. But we're just going to go ahead and blend it in with a sponge. Yeah, the concealer is definitely thicker when you blend it out this way, and it doesn't seem like it's going to crease as easily, which is nice for sure because my concealer does crease pretty easily, and it does seem like it really kept that coverage. I do have really dark circles, so they are really hard to conceal, but I do feel like that did a good job considering it was just one layer of concealer, and sometimes I have to add a little bit more right here. What I'm going to do next is just set that down with a sponge and some loose powder. This is something that I do myself quite a bit. I will generally use like a pressed powder. I thought today I would use a loose powder though, because this is how a lot of beauty gurus do it. They will kind of bake their under eyes with like a loose powder and a sponge. I'm going to do that today with this NYC Smooth Skin Translucent Loose Face Powder. It's crazy how thick that powder feels. I'm not used to that feeling under my eyes of like so much powder. I'm just going to let that set for a little bit, and I'm going to do some Target powdering, kind of the same thing as Target priming. This is another thing a lot of people do. It's just kind of setting your face where you actually need it instead of just powdering your entire face and really mattifying everything down so it doesn't look natural or dewy or skin-like at all. That hasn't been my thing lately anyways. I tend to not set with powder very often anymore, very rarely. I'm just going to take a little bit of that NYC powder on my brush. I'm going to tap off the excess. I'm going to kind of pat some of that off on the back of my hand so it's not too much. I'm just going to set right here on my forehead where I get these creases. With this technique, you don't want to apply too much powder. That's just going to start looking really dry. I'm also going to set right here in like my smile lines. Those tend to crease as well. I'm going to take the tiniest bit of excess and just apply it right here to my chin, and then tap the center of my nose, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do for powdering. We're going to leave it at that. So if I were to powder, that's kind of where I would be applying it. And then I'm just going to wipe away that kind of like bake underneath my eyes. And then I'm just going to take any excess powder on my brush and just set my eyelids a little bit so that they're not going to crease insanely. I do feel like that kind of brightened the under eyes, and I do like that effect. But I also feel like it kind of dried them out just a little bit. They look a little bit more dry than I'm used to. I can definitely understand why people like it because it does really kind of brighten that area and really mattify it. The next thing I'm going to do is contouring, and this is something I don't do very often if I'm being honest. For the most part, I really do just use like a warm toned bronzer and bronze up the face. Even for a more dressy occasion, I just don't really contour in the sense of applying like a cool tone powder right in the hollows of the cheeks and being really precise with it. It's just not something I take the time to do. But today that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be using this small e.l.f. brush, and I'm going to be taking this also by e.l.f. little shadow duo actually in the shade Pink Pal. There's two shades here, kind of like this cool tone contour type shade and kind of like a shimmery pink color for the lid. I am going to be using this shadow right here, which to me looks exactly like a contour powder. Very lightly tap it in there so that I'm not getting too much product. I'm just going to apply this right there into the hollows. I'm just going to kind of buff this up so that it's not going too low because you never want that. Alright, so now for bronzer, I am actually going to be using this Wet n Wild Mega Glow contouring palette in the shade Dolce de Leche. I know I butcher it, but that's just how it's going to be. For this, I'm using a technique that Melissa Alator uses a lot of the time, which is where she'll take kind of a more dome-shaped brush like this, and she'll take that product. I'm just going to lightly tap this in there because it is very pigmented. So I'm just going to tap that excess off. And what she does is she kind of pats and stipples the product into the skin versus kind of swiping. She says it really allows her to get a very smooth application instead of it being patchy or anything like that. So I'm going to attempt this. I don't really do this, but we're going to try it. I'm really impressed with this. It actually does look very smooth. I'm going to do the same thing on the forehead, just kind of patting it along the perimeters. Now I'm going to go ahead and contour my nose. A lot of people do this on YouTube. I tend to just bronze my nose kind of like the rest of my face. I'll take the same brush and just kind of bronze the sides of my nose. Not something I spend a lot of time doing just because I find that it can tend to get muddy pretty quickly, but we are going to try to do that today. So I'm going to go in with this blending brush right here, and I'm going to take that same shade from the little e.l.f. duo, and I'm just going to go in there with a light hand again and really try to very lightly contour the nose. Alright, so now that contouring and bronzing is done, I'm going to move on to the eyes. And I'm going to be keeping it pretty simple for this. I'm just going to be using two shadows. First one is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Eyeshadow in the shade Amber Rush. I've talked about this before on my channel, how much I love it. Mariah Leonard actually mentioned this in her top picks of glossy kind of wet looking eyeshadow video. She said that this specifically is really wet and glossy looking when you really blend it out on the eye, because it, I guess, activates like the pearls and pigments or something like that and causes it to look really wet and glossy, which you'll see in a little bit. She actually says the same thing about highlighter, but I'll touch on that later when I do my highlight. Right now I'm just going to take a little bit of this on my finger and I'm going to apply it to the lid, but I'm really going to kind of blend it out and work it onto the lid, so I'm not going to take too much product. She said this just really gives you like a glossy look. Now I'm going to be taking the ColourPop Super Shock Shadow in the shade Waddles. This is like a really gorgeous pinky shade that has like a nice satin sheen to it, but you can definitely use it in the crease because it's almost matte looking, but it's not matte because there's definitely like a satin kind of sheen to it, but it's nothing too intense and definitely wearable for the crease. I'm going to be using this synthetic, more dense crease brush. This is from e.l.f., perfect for this kind of shadow, which isn't a cream, but it's more of like a moussey texture and consistency. I'm just going to be taking some of that on my brush. I'm just going to kind of tug and pat, and I'm really going to blend this around kind of the edges of that first shadow. Alright, so now that that's kind of blended out nicely, I'm going to take a different brush, something more kind of shaped like this, good for the lower lash line. I'm going to go in there with this brush and apply this shadow to the lower lash line so it all kind of is cohesive. I'm just going to take this Rimmel Scandal Eyes Longwear Waterproof Eyeliner in the shade Nude, and I'm going to apply this to my waterline. For now, I'm going to move on to the face, and then I'll come back and finish the eyes later. This is kind of always the order I do my makeup in, just how it works for me. So for my blush, I'm actually going to be using a technique I've seen Jaclyn Hill do. She has talked about it before, how she applies her blush and highlight with a sponge sometimes. She just likes to apply it that way. I've definitely seen her talk about it more with highlight, but I am going to be using a different technique for highlight. So I'm just going to go in and apply my blush using a sponge today. We're going to see how this goes. I've never tried it before. I'm going to be using the Makeup Geek blush in the shade Spellbound. I'm just going to dip my sponge in there and I'm just going to start stippling this, blending it onto the cheeks. Wow, that's a little pigmented. Maybe I shouldn't have gone so hard in there. I'm going to go over that with my foundation brush. So I'm just going to take what I have left on my sponge and apply it to the other cheek. Okay, yeah, that's definitely better, but I do think there was quite a bit of product on that sponge, so maybe next time I'll try just to not apply so much, because I feel like with this you do have to use a really light hand because it can get intense. And for highlight, I am going to be using another one of Mariah Leonard's kind of hacks. She said she always applies her highlight this way. I'm going to be using Becca's Shimmering Skin Perfector in Opal, and I'm just going to take this small kind of domed e.l.f. brush. I do feel like this is definitely a better brush for this technique. So what she does is she just takes kind of a brush like this that's a little bit dome shaped and just covers the end of it. So normally I would apply the highlight on the side and then go in, but she just covers the end of the brush. I'm going to tap off that excess and just kind of starts right in the center here and goes in with like a swirling motion to really blend that onto the cheekbones. She says that working it into your skin like this kind of activates the pearls. Same thing with the eyeshadow and just gives it that really glossy vibe. Just bringing it up to the temples and down onto the cheek. And I'm just going to apply it like normal to the other parts of my face. Tip of my nose, down the center, and chin a little bit. And then for my inner corner highlight, I'm going to be using the ColourPop highlighter in the shade Flexitarian. This is super bright and intense, so that's kind of what I'm going for the inner corners. A really frosty shade. Wow. Alright, so for the eyebrows, I'm going to go in with the L'Oreal Brow Stylist Definer in the shade Brunette. I'm just kind of going to do my eyebrows like I normally would, fill them in and then add a clear brow gel, but I'm going to do something that I've seen a lot of people do, and it's not usually how I do my eyebrows, but I'm going to start at the tip and then go all the way in and apply a lot less product to the inner part, like little to no product to the inner part of the eyebrow, which isn't something I normally do. I have to apply quite a bit of product there just because I have like no eyebrows, like they're so sparse and thin and light, but I'm going to do that today and see how it looks, if it makes it look more natural. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually quite impressed with this technique. I feel like my eyebrows look more natural than normal, which is weird because usually I go for a really natural vibe, but doing it specifically the way I've seen other people do it is kind of paying off. They look a little bit thinner than usual, but I don't mind it. I feel like it looks really natural, like almost like I didn't really do much to them. So I'm just gonna be using this e.l.f. clear brow gel. I'm just gonna kind of set them down. And that was super fast too, like that took almost no time. I'm just gonna take that opal highlight that I used on my face and just go under the brow bone a little bit. We're looking really dewy and glowy. And now I'm just gonna curl my lashes like normal. Now for mascara, I'm going to be doing another kind of Mariah Leonard technique. I'm going to be using the Benefit Roller Lash Mascara. What she said she does is she'll go in with a wand and she'll first start at the base of the lashes and really wiggle that mascara in there, kind of be really messy with it. And then she'll go through and try to kind of separate the lashes. And she said this gives a really volumized look and it's a lot faster than just trying to really take the time to be really precise and build tons of layers. So we're going to try that today. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm very picky about the way I apply my mascara, but we're just going to see how it goes. Okay. Wow. I really feel like really getting into the root and the base of the lashes first just gives you so much volume. I've never tried to do it exactly like this, but wow, that's crazy. I definitely feel like my lashes look a lot more thick and full than they normally do. I'm really impressed with that technique. I'm just going to go ahead and apply some mascara to my lower lashes as well, just like normal. Alright, and then for lips, I'm going to do what Mariah did in her video. She used a technique that she said Alyssa Ashley uses, where she'll first go ahead and she'll kind of apply her highlight on her cupid's bow and down onto her lips. I already applied some highlight there, but we're just going to go over that again to kind of give a guideline of where her natural lip line ends. And it's just kind of really simple. So interesting, haven't heard of it, but we're going to try that. I guess it kind of makes sense. It makes it easier to see exactly where your lip line is and let you get really precise. So what she does is she doesn't apply a lip liner, but she'll just go in with a liquid lipstick. Today I'm going to be using the Tarte's Lip Paint in the shade Birthday Suit. I've used this before, it's just like a little mini. And she'll just take that brush with the most amount of product on it and go into the center, kind of below the lip line, so that you're not getting all that excess product and letting it build up right along the line, because that's just going to get messy. Apply it right here, which makes sense perfectly, and then kind of go up and perfect your lip line. And you're just using what you already have on your brush, so you're not going back in and dipping and dipping. You're just using what you already have, so you're not getting an excessive amount. And this really helps keep you from using too much product. I can definitely tell it's a nice thin layer of liquid lipstick and it's not getting cakey or crusty. And I feel like that did a really great job for not having used a lip liner underneath. It's definitely more precise than I could usually do without lip liner. You could just leave it like this, but I'm going to go over top with the e.l.f. lip oil in the shade Nude Kiss. It's really comfortable and doesn't get like sticky or anything. Wow, I'm really impressed with how this look turned out. I really like how my makeup looks today. I used a lot of different techniques that I'm not used to using at all. Like, these aren't things that I normally do. So it was really fun to try out different people's techniques and like their go-to ways of doing their makeup, because there's definitely a lot to learn here. There's so much you can learn from beauty gurus on YouTube and the way they do things and their techniques. There doesn't have to be specific rules or one way to do something. And I think this is really cool to try out some different stuff. And I really like how it looks. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you learned something today. Don't forget to subscribe down below if you have not already. Turn on that notification bell so that you can get notified when I upload videos, and like this if you enjoyed it. Be sure to share this video with anyone that you want to. Comment down below any videos you want to see from me in the future, and what was your favorite technique that I used in this video today. Let me know, and I'll see you in my next video, guys. Bye!